Hey guys, it's Jake here with Etrailer. Today we're going to be working on this boat trailer. We're putting some new brakes on, and we're going with the Etrailer Dacromet 3,500 pound brakes. These are going to be a hydraulic drum brake style. You can see that we have our hydraulic inlet right here. This is going to be your bleeder valve behind this little rubber cap. It's nice they give you that little protector so that that opening stays clean for whenever you maintain your brakes. You can pop that off and take care of them. These two holes down here is going to be your adjustment for your brake shoes. You can see right here, you've got the little cogs. These are manual adjust. They're not auto adjusting. We do have auto adjusting on our website if you want to take a look at those. I prefer auto adjusting because when you hit the brakes, it's going to have an automatic tooth here. It looks more like a saw blade rather than a gear. But what happens is when you hit the brakes, that little tooth is going to trip it, and it's going to keep your brakes tight all the time. You don't have to come here and adjust it. If you are adjusting that, you simply just take a screwdriver, pop these little caps out, and then in this case, you want to pop out this cap, and then take a brake spoon, slide it in there, and give it a couple turns in order to tighten up your brakes. You can see that these are silver in color. You're probably used to seeing a black housing with maybe some gold parts inside here. That gray paint job here is going to be your Dacromet coating. That is what helps to protect it against salt water, just water in general, which is what makes them so good for boat trailers. It's going to provide that extra protection so you don't have to worry about the components rusting when you back your trailer in and out of the water. This particular kit that we're reviewing today is going to be the left and right hand side, so the driver and passenger. We replaced both of them on this trailer. We only have one brake axle on this trailer because that's all it's required. These can come in just the left, just the right, or the kit like we're doing today. So just pick up however many you need for however many axles you need them for. I would recommend, my personal recommendation is that if your one side needs a little bit of help, you're probably going to have to replace the other one. And while you're doing the job, you're going to have all the tools out for the one side anyway. I would recommend picking up the kit so that you know that you're going to have even braking on both sides of the trailer. Now you might be wondering, how do I know when I need to change my brakes or what to check if I know it's a brake problem or the hydraulic line problem or what have you. For our particular problem, typically when you get brake problems, a lot of times it's not actually the pad. These pads look perfectly fine. The thickness of them are more than good enough, but you can see that they're shiny. What we had here was a kind of a double problem. We had our hydraulic cylinder in here that applies the brakes had blown a seal, so it was spraying hydraulic fluid all over the brakes. So when the hydraulic cylinder lost its seal, it didn't have any more pressure in the system. So this brake inside of our drum here, I can grab it. It's actually dry and rusted because the brakes were no longer being applied on the other side because we blew that hydraulic seal on the inside. The other thing that happened, and you can see right here on this spring, is we blew our axle seal. The seal on our hub blew on the back side, and it put hub grease all over this brake. So we were kind of doomed, and we needed to replace everything. We went ahead and put a new line set on this trailer too, because the owner had never done anything with the brakes. So we went ahead and did this overhaul. We're going to go ahead and show you that right now. To begin your installation, you'll want to take your wheels and tires off. Just use the appropriate socket. If you're using hand tools, you want to break these loose because they are torqued down. You want to break them loose while the tire's on the ground. Take your tire off, set that off to the side. Then we're going to take a screwdriver and a mallet, and you want to go just behind the cap and tap very gently, pry off. You can rotate the hub. Once you get a gap in there, you don't need the hammer anymore. From here on out, you'll definitely want to have a paper towel ready, or a shop towel, or an old rag, whatever you've got in your garage, because all these parts that we're taking off are going to be very greasy. So we're eventually going to clean them off, but you want to have something ready to hold on to them. There we go. Pop that off. We'll set that down. You're also going to need a lot of shop towels to be able to clean all the grease and stuff out of this, inside of this hub, so we can see what we're working with. Depending on your axle, you may have a retaining nut or a retaining cap that's over top of our castle nut, or you might have a pin like we have here. It's very difficult to see. It's kind of camouflaged in there with the grease, but you just want to straighten that pin out, and if you push up on the bottom, you can see where the head's at. And we'll just grab that. You want to pull up on it to get that pin out. We'll just set that down. When we go to put that back in, we can make sure it's nice and straight so it'll go right down in there. Then you'll take your castle nut, spin it off, and we can grab a towel, and when you go to pull this off, your washer and your bearing are going to come out right in your hand. Just like that. This is the washer. You want to be sure not to lose that, and there's your bearing. Now just pop your drum off the rest of the way. And whenever you remove drums from the spindle, you're going to have to replace the seal, because the seal is typically it's worn out. Sometimes when if you're putting the drum on and you discover an issue and you want to take it right back off, that's okay. You don't have to replace the seal then. But this one has had years of use and abuse, and we're going to have to replace that seal. So be sure that you pick up the correct seal when you decide to do this job. You will have to see the back side of the seal in order to do that. So maybe pop one off, order all your parts so you know you get the right brakes, or the correct brakes and the correct seal. Behind our brake assembly, you'll want to use a 11/16 wrench. These ratcheting ones work really, really good to sneak up behind the brake flange and the side of our axle. And then you'll need a 3/8 line set. And you can tell the difference between a line set and a normal wrench is that you'll have these two little tabs. And it's because those fittings are brass, you need to have a grip on all 6 points of the nut to be able to take it off. So we're going to take our brake line off and take the 4 nuts that are holding our brake flange onto our axle. For this next part, it might be good to have an extra set of hands. I've got Brad helping me on the brake side of things. And if you just stay underneath the trailer, what you can do is once you get that last nut off, Brad's going to take this brake flange off and he's going to slide the new one right on. You want to make sure if you're doing it on the driver's side that you have the left hand, and if you're doing it on the passenger side, you've got the right hand. So it's as if you're driving the vehicle. And then you want to take your washers and your nuts and put them back on the back side, and put your brake line back. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the old seal out of our drum, and I'm going to clean all the old grease off of all the components. So the inside of the hub, you want to clean both of the bearings out, you want to clean your cap out, the washer, and our nut. I'm going to go ahead and do that because it's a very boring process. Just use some brake cleaner, clean off all those parts. I've cleaned up all of our components. I've repacked our inner bearing, which is the larger of the 2 bearings. I've got our new seal here. Set it down on top of this as straight as possible. When you get the old seal out, you can usually just use a screwdriver, or if you have a seal puller, sometimes those will work too. But we'll take this. This is just a hole saw that is larger than the diameter of the seal. And we're just going to hit, and it'll evenly push that seal down into place. This is essentially exactly what a seal driver is. When you're driving this in, just be sure that the spring is not coming off the inside of this rubber. And once you get it down far enough, you'll feel this shock back, just like that. You can hear the change in tone. We'll give it one more good hit, and we can hear the same tone, and we know that our seal is properly set down in there. It'll be even with this top lip. We're going to take our drum, slide it over our spindle, over our brake pads. It'll probably be a tighter fit. or it should be a tighter fit than the old one was coming off. Then we'll take our inner bearing, also greased. Slide this on. Make sure that it seats inside of its race. And we'll take the washer, slide it on, and follow that with our nut. And we'll want to take an 1.5 inch socket, slide it over that nut, and as you're tightening this nut, you want to spin this so that it seats properly in there. We are not going to have the nut this tight. It's somewhere in the range of about 30 foot-pounds is what you want to put on this. And then what we'll do is we're just going to back this nut off until the wrench breaks loose. Right there. You can feel that the wrench just broke loose. Our nut, we can move it with our hand. We're going to tighten it. And what we need to do is we need to get it lined up with our pinhole. And because we can't get it to line up this way, finger tight, we'll have to back it off just a little bit to this other one here. And we still don't have any play in the hub, and that's what we want. But we've got our notch there lined up. Once you got your pin back in place, we're going to take it, we're going to bend the two tabs upward. And you want to make sure that they're going to fit inside of the cup. So it's best if you can remember the way that it was from the factory. But if you can't, typically you can bend them up and around the spindle. Then take your grease gun and we're going to pump grease in until we can see grease coming out of our outer bearing. Another thing this is going to do is it's going to fill the void between the two bearings. If you do not have Easy Lube axles, you kind of want to pack some grease down in between there, because the reason why we want that grease to fill up that void is because this is a boat trailer. If you don't fill it up with grease, chances are water can get in there and water's going to hang out, and that will dilute the grease and cause big issues in the future. Once you see the grease start to come out, we'll give it a spin. Give it 1/2 shot more. We can take our grease cap and put it on. Now a lot of people will put their grease cap on and then they'll turn around and pop this rubber cover off and then continue to fill it up with grease until that grease cap is full. You do not want to do that. You want to have a little bit of room in that grease cap for the grease to be able to move around a little bit. And when you go to, if you go to re-grease your hubs in 3 or 4 months from now, that gives you a little bit of additional space for some more grease to go in. So you don't want to fill it up right away. Clean any excess grease we have on here. And then all we have to do is take our wheel and tire and put it back into place. Once you get your wheel and tire back on, you want to go through your bleeding your brakes process. And that's going to kind of depend on what brake actuator you have, if you have hydraulic or an electronic brake actuator or a manual one up front. We just use the manual one. You want to stick a screwdriver in the bottom of it and kind of pump on the bottom of the brake actuator, and that will pump some fluid back here and bleed your brakes just like you normally would. But with that being done, we've got our brakes bled. We tested it out, spun it a few times, and we know that they're stopping properly. Well guys, hopefully this video helped you decide whether or not the Etrailer Dacromet 3,500 pound Dacromet brake pads are right for you and your trailer.